Attention bowlers, we're going to get started. Welcome back to Exeter Bowling Lanes in Exeter, New Hampshire. This is Steve Kelly at Nate Lee's. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer. It's 2 points per string and 4 for total pinfall. If there is a tie, the points are evenly split. And I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, brought to you by 3-Ball Spare Conglomerate After the Fact. It's good as always to have you along with us. This match was played on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. I would like to highlight a few things. First, this broadcast will have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so enable that feature if you enjoy it. I'll describe the play-by-play action and provide up-to-the-minute scoring to the best of my ability. Keep an eye on the scoreboard on your screen. It's there for the benefit of the broadcast. Unofficially, the bowlers maintain their official book records separately. And here is Steve Kelly coming to us from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, on the road against Nate Lee's. We are on lanes 2 and 3 at Exeter Bowling Lanes Shooter Sports Pub in Exeter, New Hampshire. Since 1946, Steve Kelly with the opening pitch to the left of the head pin. 5 pins on the plate, 1, 3, 6, 9, 10. First spare shot in the first frame, the first spare opportunity. Steve Kelly connects with the object pin, but only takes 3. It's a bit of a full shot. 3, 6, 10 left. Third ball is off into the void, and that will be a 7-box opener for Steve Kelly. If you've never seen Candlepin Bowling, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you and hope you enjoy what you're watching. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Your continued viewership is greatly appreciated. If you like this content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel for more exciting matches. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. There's Nate drop for Steve Kelly. The 1 and the 3 are left. Wasn't a headpin shot. At the time of this broadcast, Steve Kelly has a record of 114 and 124 for the season of the ACST. There's a spare for Steve Kelly, drawing first blood in terms of the marks. While this is technically round 14, this match was played last for Steve Kelly. This is his 18th match. In the ACST, matches can be bowled out of order. Steve Kelly's on the fill of the spare and drops 9. That's a 9 fill. That is 26 after 2. And it's another spare leave. Kelly on the 4 pin with the help of the wood. That's another spare. That's 2 spares in a row. 36 and a bonus after 3 for Steve Kelly, and that was the first head pin shot. For the thrilling conclusion of the third frame. Steve Kelly's on the head pin, splits 7. A fill of 7. That'll be 43 after 3. That's the 5, the 3, and the 10. For another spare, and that's 3 marks in a row for Steve Kelly. That's 53 and a bonus after 4. With 1 to go before we say hello to Nate Lee's for the first time today. Steve Kelly working on a spare, working on his 3rd spare in a row. And the pitch is ever so slightly to the right of the head pin. After the mix, it's 1, 2, 7. A fill of 7 for 60 and 4. Fifth spare, and Kelly connects with the object, but the object just kind of goes straight back. The 2 and the 7 are untouched. This will be for a 10-box. Kelly's on it for a 10-box, excuse me. That will be 70 after 5 for Steve Kelly. You may have noticed that the on-screen scoreboard is not updated in real time, and as you may also be observing, Steve Kelly was bowling, and this is Steve Kelly on the commentary. And you'll see those scores appearing now on your screen. So here's the deal. When I was bowling, I updated the boxes on screen every 5-ish frames or so. Just basically when I had a free moment. It's a little difficult to bowl and run the whole setup at the same time. So that's Nate Lees missing his spare in the first frame, and he's on the 5-pin for a 10 box. That's 10 after 1 for Nate Lees. Compare that to 7 after 1 for Steve Kelly, an early lead of 3. At the time of this broadcast, Nate Lees was at 77 and 133 for the season. Nate Lees is off to the left of the head pin, and that's a Caleri, named after Bob Caleri, who was a frequent contestant on WNDS Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Search his name Caliri. You can find him on YouTube, and there is a spare for Mr. Nate Lees in the second frame. Both bowlers with a spare in the second. Nate Lees 20 after 2, plus the next ball as a bonus. And here's Nate Lees on the 1-2 pocket. 7 pins go down, and he's got the Triforce of Power on the right side, the 3 triangle. 3, 5, 6. Lees on the triangle. He'll take the 3 and 5, and the 6. Well, the 6 just doesn't want anything to do with that. Nate Lees will miss the single. It'll be a 9 box. After 3, Nate Lees is at 36. Compare that to Steve Kelly's 43. We are at Exeter Bowling Lanes. Shooter Sports Pub, open since 1946. Cash only, ATM on premises, paper scoring, and Seacoast, New Hampshire adjacent. 1, 2, 4, 7 for Nate Lees. He's on the head pin, and he leaves the 2. And Nate Lees with a 10 box. That will be 46 after 4 for Nate Lees. Down by 14 to Steve Kelly's 60 after 4. Exeter Bowling Lanes in Exeter, New Hampshire offers a variety of entertainment options for the whole family, such as 12 lanes of Candlepin bowling, local entertainment, pool tables, 13 TVs. There's even glow bowling here. Plenty of food and drink, courtesy of Exeter Lanes' Shooters Sports Pub. That's Nate Lees with the 1, the 2, and the 10. He'll miss the object to the left. The 1 and the 10 are on the plate of lane 3. Nate Lees on the head pin, and the 10 pin isn't touched. That shall be a 9 box for Mr. Lees, and after 5, Nate Lees is at 55 after 5. Here are the scores so far. So you will notice that there will be no head pin and split statistics on the screen for this broadcast, and that was just because, like I said again, it's a little bit hard to keep all of that tracked in real time when you yourself are also bowling. So I will give you occasional verbal updates on what some of those numbers are here and there. Like, for example, Steve Kelly went 1 for 5 on the head pin, or excuse me, 2 for 5 on the head pin with 1 split. Nate Lees went 1 for 5 on the head pin with no splits in that first half. Nate Lees averaged about 5.4 on the first ball, while Steve Kelly averaged 7.2 on the first ball in the first half. And there's Steve Kelly dropping 8, dropping 9 in a wiggly 7 pin left on the plate. And that was a head pin shot for any of y'all keeping score at home. And on a single pin spare, Steve Kelly's right on it, starting out the second half with a mark. That's 80 and a ball and 6 for Steve Kelly. So far, 3 for 6 on the head pin with 1 split. And a mark fill, and it's on, well, it looked better than it ended up being. It's an interesting 7 split and a 7 fill. It's 87 in 6 for Steve Kelly. It's the 5, 6, 10. And there's a piece of wood to the left of the 5. Steve Kelly goes for the 6, 10 and trips the wood and trips the 5. That's a mark and a 7 for Steve Kelly. That's 97 and a bonus in 7. That shot really was an interesting one. Probably wouldn't have gone without the wood, because that 6 pin would have traveled behind the 5 pin most likely, but instead it just tripped the wood behind the 5 and knocked it over very graciously. And Steve Kelly with a 5 fill on the mark. That's a right side Caleri shot, one that Nate Lees made earlier. 1, 3, 6, 8, 10, with a piece of wood between the 1 and the 8. 1, 3 pocket is the target pocket. And Steve Kelly is on the 3, 6 pocket instead, and leaves the 1 and the 8, and it will be a shot for a 10 box here in the 8th frame. And Kelly, that's a 10 box right there. After 8, Steve Kelly's at 112. 4 for 8 on the head pin, 2 splits. 8 boxes in, Steve Kelly is averaging approximately 7.125 on the head pin. And Kelly's off to the left. Pins maybe still mixing, and not quite. The 6 pin slides off its spot, wiggles a lot, doesn't fall down. That was a miss to the left of the head pin. 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10. It's like a 6.5 pin at that point. And Kelly, left of the head pin, drills through the middle. 7, 10, 3, 6. This will be the 10. And Steve Kelly takes 2 on the right side and 1 on the left, and oddly enough, the 10 pin is the one that survives all that. So that's going to be a 9 box. That's going to be 121 and 9 for Steve Kelly. 1 frame to go. Steve Kelly already in the 120s. And the final first ball of the first game for Steve Kelly. 6 go down, 7 go down, 8 go down, 9 go down. It was a miss to the right of the head pin, but some dominoes fell. And it's just the head pin for Steve Kelly. First ball missed the target audience. Now the lone audience member is standing. Steve Kelly misses the target pin again, but kicks the 1 pin and gets a spare by missing everything. So that's Steve Kelly with 131 in 10 plus a bonus. This one last ball will conclude the first game for Steve Kelly. And it's away. The first ball on the 1-2. It's on the head pin, and that will be a 7 fill for Steve Kelly. That's a game 1 of 138 to set the benchmark for Nate Lees to meet or exceed. Here on the ACST at Exeter Bowling Lanes Shooters Sports Pub in Exeter, New Hampshire. I'm Steve Kelly in the call after the fact for this match. It's great to have you along. And first, our home bowler, Lees, goes off to the left and leaves the 1-3-7. Nate Lees so far has only been 1 for 5 on the head pin. No splits so far. Nate Lees will connect with the 3 and the 7, leave the head pin. And Lees the ball will just slightly curve to the left at the last minute, and he'll leave the head pin. That's a 9 box in the 6th for 64. Compare that to Steve Kelly's 87. Nate Lees on lane 2. Again, missing the head pin to the left. It's 1-3-6. And on that 1-3-6, he's on the head pin too full. Drills it back straight. 3-6. This will be for a 10. And that is a 10 box for Nate Lees. At 7, Nate Lees is at 74. Steve Kelly, 102. And this time missing the head pin to the right, but it is a 7 draw. It's the 1, the 2, and the 4 for Nate Lees to convert. Lees is right all over it and all over the pocket, and that's a spare for Nate Lees. A good pickup. That is 84 and a bonus in 8. Steve Kelly at 112 in 8. Nate Lees really has to mark out to get to 138 at this point. That'll be a decent start of a 6 fill. Off to the right, that's the 1-7-10-2. The high-low jack and a growth. 2 pieces of wood in the middle of it all. It is on the 1-2 pocket, and wow, they dance around the 7-10. They go too aerial too quickly and effectively avoid everything else. And Nate Lees will make the most of it with a 9 box, leaving the 7 pin. That is 99 and 9 for Nate Lees. Steve Kelly at 121 after 9. And at the 10th frame, the opening pitch, Nate Lees narrowly escapes a split stat there, drops 8. It's the 2 and the 4. Nate Lees has only been 2 for 10 on the head pin this game. Nate Lees, that's a spare at the end there. He's at 109 and a bonus in the 10th. The first game will go to Steve Kelly with a 138. And now it's bonus time for Nate Lees. Just trying to keep the total relatively close at this point. Down by a fair amount of change, and that's a 6 fill that will at least help knock the game and total differential down to about 23. And here are the visual scores, as you can see. Nate Lees with 3 marks in the first game, Steve Kelly with 6 marks in the first game. That difference of marks brought Steve Kelly to a fill total of 42, averaging 7 pins on the fill. Nate Lees 19 and 6.3, respectively. And now it's time to start the second game here on the ACST with Steve Kelly up first as the away bowler. I am Steve Kelly on the call, recording this commentary after the fact. To get this up on YouTube as a traditional match, we did live stream this match with no commentary on the day it was played, but obviously I couldn't commentate a match while bowling it. That is not something I am incredibly good at nor willing to do. So I'm just doing the recording after the fact. Here's Steve Kelly, first pitch of the second game. And what an opening pitch it is. Kind of a contrast to the first game. That is a half Worcester punch on the 3 and the 9 for Steve Kelly. This is the danger shot, because you have to hit the right of the head pin to really take everything out. Steve Kelly hits the head pin, but is a little full. 4.62, 7.10. Can be psychologically psychologically difficult to try to hit that pocket and either not punch or sail through the void. And Steve Kelly, that will be nearly a 9 box. The 6 pin really thought about it. Steve Kelly gave it some time, but it will be an 8 box after that wiggly pin finally settles. Here in the first frame of the second game, about to start the second frame. Steve Kelly averaged 7.0 pins on the first ball in the first game. Nate Lees averaged 6.2 pins on the first ball in the first game. We are in the late stages of the 2024-2025 Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour season. Many bowlers just finishing up their final matches before playoff season begins. And Steve Kelly is on the head pin. The 4 and the 6 are left after 8 fall on the pocket. Those are the goalposts, and that's a split. The way this wood is placed, there is not going to be really all that much hope in terms of sparing it, but we'll see what happens. And Kelly will play the 6 and play all the wood, but the 4 is not really touched, not really involved in that production. And Steve Kelly just misses the 4 pin. That will be a 9 box in the second for 17. Not a lot of bowlers have, at the time of this recording at least, secured spots in the playoffs. There's quite a bit of up in the airness for a north and a south in the ACST right now. Only a couple of bowlers have clinched spots in the playoffs so far, such as Cody 50, my teammate in Worlds. And Nate Lees was commenting that Cody 50 actually threw his career high 5 when he bowled him at Exeter. So Nate Lees was remarking, he says, you know, everyone bowls the games of their lives against me, and don't I know I feel that happens sometimes when I bowl. Steve Kelly punching the right, then punching the left Worcesters. That's a full trip to Worcester, and that's a That's a 4 box for Steve Kelly. Ouch, that's 21 after 3. 2 more boxes before he sits and finishes the first half of the second game. Nate Lees will be up shortly. Steve Kelly in the 1-3 pocket. It's a clean pocket hit, and almost a little too clean. The 5 and the 9 were protected by all the falling pins around it. But it is a clean spare shot at the same time, no wood. And Steve Kelly will take a spare off of that. That's 31 and a bonus after 4 for Steve Kelly. To fill this spare and finish the 5th frame is the assignment for Kelly right now. Lane 3 at Exeter Bowling Lanes, Shooters Sports Pub on 6 Columbus Ave in Exeter, New Hampshire. Steve Kelly 1-3 pocket, and that is the left side diamond, and a 6 fill on the spare. That's 37 after 4. 2, 4, 5, 8. Playing the diamond, misses it, but the whole thing goes. That's a very unconventional spare for Steve Kelly. And to give you a perspective swap, when I was bowling that, I made like a little clapping motion, and then I turned around and me and Nate Lees laughed. He said, like, you got to clap. That's how you get the spare. That's the clap spare. Okay, welcome back. Just cut ahead a little bit just to save some time. No idle time here in post-production. Nate Lees on a 1-2 pocket. That's a 6 fill for Nate Lees. That's the 7, 8, 5, 9. An interesting leave for Nate Lees. And he'll play the center and leave the pin off in the corner. The visual scores will be updated in just a little bit. This was one of those halves where I just didn't get a chance to go over to update them. That's a 9-box opener for Nate Lees. So Steve Kelly so far at 47 and a bonus after 5. In the second frame, Nate Lees just finished his first frame with 9 after 1. Lees pocket shot there. It's the 5-9. 5-9 to service. That was a spare that Steve Kelly made in his first half in the 4th frame. Here's Nate Lees' attempt. And Nate Lees just a little bit off to the left of the 5 pin. Leaves that spare on the table. And there is a miss the second, get the third situation for Nate Lees. That is 19 after 2 for Mr. Lees, who is 2-4-2 on the head pin with 1 split so far. Steve Kelly in his first 5 boxes of the second game averaged 5.2 on the first ball. Nate Lees averaging 6.2 on the first ball at the end of the first game. Here's Mr. Lees, and that's a split. That's a 6 drop. 7, 8, 10, 2. And Lees on the 2. He gets stuffed by the sidewall. Only has enough momentum to roll into the 7. Right idea, just bad luck. And Nate Lees will take a 9. That is 28 after 3 for Mr. Nate Lees. Nate Lees has dropped 7. He missed the head pin to the left. The 1, the 3, and the 7 are on the plate. And Lees will get a very unconventional spare. He'll miss the head pin, but he hit the wood that was facing us to the right of the 3, which caused a bounce and a sweep over to the 7 for a spare. Nate Lees getting a merciful spare in the 4th. That's 38 and a bonus. Big chance to catch up here. Nate Lees. Head pin. Too much head pin. Straight through, drills through, fills 4, and that is what we call the traditional academic spread eagle. It's a punch out of the 1, the 5, the 8, and the 9 pins. Nate Lees will pick the left wing first of the eagle. 3, 6, 10. Left for a 10 box. 42 after 5 for Nate Lees. And he'll miss the right wing, and that's a 7 box. And 49 after 5 for Nate Lees, who has gone 4 for 5 on the head pin with 2 splits. For the first 5 boxes of the second game, Nate Lees averaged 6.2 on the first ball, while Steve Kelly averaged 5.2. That's 49 after 5 for Lees and 47 after 5 for Steve Kelly. Still plenty of bowling to go here. Steve Kelly now going off to lane 2 to conduct business with the second half of the second game and to resolve some unfinished business of the first half. With a spare in the fifth, 47 in a bonus, Steve Kelly is now working on a spare. It's away. Steve Kelly's off to the left. Was the 6 back, and now it's the 1, the 6, the 9, and the 10. 6 fill, 53 after 5 for Steve Kelly. 3 for 5 on the head pin. 3 for 6 on the head pin with 1 split. Kelly a little bit full on the head pin. It's a bit of a momentum roll of a piece of wood to go over to the 6 and even slide it a bit. But the 6 and the 10 remain. Kelly will take a 10 off of that. That is 63 in 6. Exeter Lanes is an alley that I can tell you I haven't quite fully figured out yet. There's really interesting action there, and some of it looks like it's beneficial, and other times just illogical things happen. There were a couple shots that Nate Lees even labeled. He said he recognized those. He called them the Exeter Special. There's a shot on the headpin by Steve Kelly. Just a tough break. It's a split of 8. It's the 5 and the 7. And here's Kelly on the 5 and the 7. Not much he could have done with that. Just struck the 5. The 7 was untouched. There's a way of playing that 5, but you have to hit a very precise spot on the right side. And Kelly will play a piece of wood way out in front of the 7, and it ends up causing a deflection. So that's a 9 box for Steve Kelly. 72 in 7. 4 for 7 this game on the head pin with 2 splits. Start the 8th frame here. Missing the head pin to the left, 6 pins go down. That's the 1, the 3, the 7, and the 9 for Steve Kelly. Pocket shot on the 1, 2 should be enough to take most, if not all, of the deck out. I always say most because you never know. Some things just don't always go. Steve Kelly, just barely missing the head pin. Caps the wood to the right at an angle. Everything but the object pin went, so it's just Steve Kelly versus the head pin here for a 10 box. Just misses it off to the left, and that will be 81 after 9 for Steve Kelly. 10-9-9 in this half. There's a 6 fill on the spare from the 5th. You're in the 9th frame. Bit of a contrast from the first game in which Steve Kelly threw a 138. Ball on the head pin. A little bit too full on the head pin. It's the 4, 6, and the 3 and the 7. Piece of wood in between. Pocket shot right side is the operative pocket. And Steve Kelly's ball tails the left just a little bit. Just barely escaping the 3 pin. Takes out the 7, leaves the 4, the 3, and the 6. Steve Kelly will poke the 3, leaving the goalposts, and that'll be an 8 box for Steve Kelly. And that's a punch to the right for Steve Kelly on the 3 and the 9. And yikes, that's going to be another half Worcester shot to convert. Steve Kelly in the 1-2 pocket on the spare shot. It was decent, but it left the 5 and the 10. And there's a 10 box for Steve Kelly. And jumping ahead here just a little bit, just to save some time again. As you can see, Steve Kelly with 100. Game 2. Nate Lees, 4 drop and a 6-pack on the right side. 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. Nate Lees with a 49.5 on the 6-pack. He'll take almost the entirety of it. He'll leave the 6. A wiggly 6, so he did end up connecting physically with all of them, but he'll leave the 6 on the 3rd attempt for a 9 box. Nate Lees off to the races, 58 after 6. Steve Kelly, 63 after 6. Nate Lees to the right, 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, 10. 2 block it. All but the 7-pin remain. The shot on the 7-pin is just a miss to the right. That's a 9 for Nate Lees. That'll be 67 and 7 for Nate Lees and 72 and 7 for Steve Kelly. Here's Nate Lees on the 3-6 pocket. 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9. Nate Lees leaves the 4, the 8, and the 9. And it's a 9 box for Nate Lees. Third in a row, 76 and 8. And he's on the head pin again. 5 pins on the left. It's 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. And Lees will thinly take the back row diagonally. 2, 4, and 7 left. That's another 9 box for Nate Lees. That is 85 in 9. And now, the 10th frame opening pitch. It's a drop of 7. That's the 3, the 6, and the 10 for Nate Lees. 95 and a bonus. Way up on the 3, 6, 10. Got a little scary there when the ball went shot straight up, but it came back down on the 10 pin. That's a spare for Nate Lees. That's 95 and a bonus in the 10th. And Nate Lees will punch oddly thin to the right of the head pin. That's a 4 fill. And that will be a 99 second game for the home bowler, Nate Lees. So it's a difference of 1. Steve Kelly, 100. Nate Lees, 99. And here's those scores again in case you need a refresher. Steve Kelly currently with 8 spares, while Nate Lees has 5. Steve Kelly with 54 on the fill bonus pins, averaging 6.8 per mark. Nate Lees totaling 27, averaging 5.4 per mark. And we are just about to move on to the next game here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour out of Exeter, New Hampshire, Exeter Bowling Lanes, Shooters Sports Pub. Steve Kelly at Nate Lees. I'm Steve Kelly after the fact on the call. Great to have you along. Hope you're enjoying this match so far. It's currently Nate Lees at 214 and Steve Kelly at 238. And here is the inaugural first ball of the 3rd game. And it was a head pin ball. And pins are still mixing. It's going to be a split of 7. 4, 7, 10 for Steve Kelly. On lane 3. The lane pairings at Exeter are very interesting. They're kind of opposite of what you think they would be. And that's because the ball returns are in different places compared to more modern style bowling alleys. Like, for example, at like Lakeside Lanes or something, the ball return is going to be between lanes 1 and 2, but at Exeter Lanes, it's actually after lane 2, And that makes for really interesting lane pairings that may be a little bit confusing to some or require more ball return changeovers for team games or something when there's games spread across multiple lanes and such. But you get the idea. It's just a little bit different. Just takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around it. A lot of older bowling alleys kind of had the styling like this. So where are we? We're at the top of the third. Steve Kelly threw an 8 box, and in the second frame here, first ball, 8 drop, 5 and 3. And it looks like it's going to be a decent spare leave. And am I right? I'm right. There's a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 18 after 2, plus a bonus. And again, I do apologize for the score not updating in real time. It's just because I myself was bowling, so couldn't exactly keep the scoreboard updated live. So I ran back there whenever I could, and hoping that the narration will give you the verbal updates in the meantime. And Steve Kelly with a strike. I was about to say nearly a strike on spare, but that is a strike on spare. That's going to be 28 after 2 for Steve Kelly, and now 38 and a strike fill after 3. Steve Kelly starting off hot in the first half of the third game. Dumping 10 on top of a spare. And hoping maybe a third mark will really launch into the stratosphere here. The follow-up to the strike. A little bit direct on the head pin. 6 go down. 2, 4, 7, 10. Hitting the 2-4 pocket is the operative shot, or the operative pocket specifically. Steve Kelly will run down the 3 on the left. A piece of wood rolls towards the 10, but falls off the back of the plate. So that's a 9 fill, and that's 47 after 3. Not bad for a strike fill on a spare. So a big 20 and then a big 19. This will be for a 10 box. Steve Kelly's just waiting for the wood to settle. And the ball is in between the piece of wood and the pin, so that'll be a 9 in the fourth for 56 and 4. 1 frame to go before we swap over to Nate Lees. Steve Kelly is currently perfect on the head pin, 4 frames in. 2 splits, 1 to go. And here we are on the head pin, almost a strike right there. 9 pins drop immediately. The 4 pin is surrounded by 3 pieces of wood with 2 near it. And it should be a layup of a spare, and it sure is. That will be a 66 half for Steve Kelly. A 66 half plus a fill. So that's quite a heck of a half and perfect on the head pins. And here's Nate Lees on lane 3. Looking to follow that up, or answer to that 66 half for Steve Kelly. As you can see, the scores are now in. Nate Lees on the head pin. 6 pins go down with a split. 4, 6, 3, 7. The score system at Exeter Bowling Lanes is all paper and pencil, or it is overhead projector. And running back and forth between the overhead projector and the computer, that is one heck of a whiplash of technology. So whoever was keeping score at the table, I ended up just taking those scores verbatim and putting them into the computer. So it's been a fun time. And those overhead projectors, you know, if you've ever been to, if you went to elementary school during the time of overhead projectors, I don't know, for all I know, maybe they're still there. You know that writing on them is a bit of an art because you have like a smeary kind of permanent-ish marker on a transparent piece of paper, and writing it on an angle is often not quite what ends up going on the projector side. You might miss a line, or, you know, the handwriting might get all over the place, and the scoreboard, or the score sheet specifically at Exeter, is really interesting in the sense that there isn't a lot of room to write all the notation for the scores and such. So you have to either have really good handwriting, or you just have to deal with almost illegible handwriting. So It's fun. It's part of the game. Anyways, that is 19 after 2 for Nate Lees, that 9 box. In the third frame, he's on the head pin, and he'll drop 9. That looks like one of his first real good spare opportunities right here on the 6 pin. Perfect on the head pin this half, though. And there's a spare for Nate Lees. Almost missed it, but he kicked a piece of wood and tripped it. So that's 29 and a bonus after 3 for Mr. Lees. Needs a big fill here to catch up to Steve Kelly, who's already 38 plus at the same point in the game. And Nate Lees will drop 8, fill with 8, 37 after 3. 4 for 4 in the head pin. 2 splits. This is a 7-10 split with a lot of wood. Nate Lees tries to redline the wood on the left. Piece of wood rolling towards a 7. Does it have enough oomph? It'll tip the 7. Both Steve Kelly and Keith Beaupre in the audience protesting why that didn't go down. By all rights, Nate Lees should have had a second spare there, but he'll have to settle for a 10 box. That's 47 after 4. Nate Lees was telling me, he goes, you know, this is a place that you'll throw either the best games of your life, followed by possibly the worst games of your life. It's very up and down. So far, I know in this match, Steve Kelly has been sort of experiencing that, and Nate Lees just having some trouble with some leaves that just should have gone, or some pins that should have fallen that just haven't been. 7 drop for Nate Lees, 3-6-10. Just misses the operative 3-6 pocket, connects with a 6 and the 10 instead. It'll be an open frame. He's leaving the 3 pin on the deck, and that will be a 10 box. And that's 5 boxes into the third game for both bowlers. That's 57 after 5 for Nate Lees, and 66 in a bonus after 5 for Steve Kelly. It's not shown here visually, but both bowlers had perfect first halves in terms of the head pin completion percentage, 100% for both, 5 for 5. And both bowlers also with splits. Both Steve Kelly and Nate Lees had splits in the first frame and the fourth frame. Identical stats there. But the difference is, of course, in the numbers after 5. Steve Kelly with an incomplete fifth frame at 66 and a bonus, and Nate Lees currently 57 after 5. Steve Kelly 3 marks, Nate Lees 1. 5 frames into the game, Nate Lees has been averaging 7.6 on the first ball. Steve Kelly averaging 8 on the first ball. High numbers on the first ball in particular, corresponding to the perfect head pin percentage. And Steve Kelly leads off and is a little bit off to the left of the head pin, but 7 will go down regardless. That's the 1, the 3, and the 9. I can attest that Exeter was an interesting alley in terms of the drift, because I know I found myself really having to plow in from the right corner. And there's a spare for Steve Kelly, though. That's 2 spares in a row. That's 73 after 5 and 83 in a bonus after 6. I found that it's like if you throw a direct straight ball at Exeter lanes, I found it doesn't quite really go where you want it to go. So I found, unlike a lot of other alleys, I really had to kind of lead off almost in the corner of the lane. See, you can even see there I wasn't quite off in the corner because in some cases the ball return is almost uncomfortably close, but you saw how the ball drifted left. That's happened twice now. But that's a 6 fill on the spare for Steve Kelly, and that will put him at 89 and 6. That's the 1, the 3, the 7, and the 8. Oh, and it was a perfect ball, but frustrated with that shot. The ball connected with the 1, the 3, took the 7, and almost kind of danced all around the 8. No third mark for Steve Kelly, but it was a good bid. He's on the 8 for a 10 box, and that will be 99 and 7 for Steve Kelly. Similar to that shot that Nate Lees had with his split, just one of the pins just wouldn't go, and yeah, that's just the story here. Lane 2. Steve Kelly will punch half Worcester plus the 5 and then the 8. Some pins fell later. I was joking with Nate Lees. Kind of had a frustration clap, and that actually caused 2 extra pins to go down in a way. So we said, you always got to clap. Take whatever pins you can get. And there's a spare for Steve Kelly all over it, cleaning up that mess. Guess we'll call that the clap spare. That is 109 and a bonus in the 8th for Steve Kelly now. Follow up to the spare. 1-2 pocket. 7 fill, but not a great leave. It's the 5-7-10, the Matt Susi special. Not really a whole lot one can do about this, except for hope you catch a good angle, and Steve Kelly will cap the wood at an angle, but it kind of stuffs the ball and stuffs the pin. Only the 5 goes down. Again, 8 or 9 box. Basically just pick a pin. He'll pick the left pin, and that will result in a 9 box in the 9th. That's 116 and 8 and 125 and 9. With 1 to go. High-powered game. This will be the final first ball of the 3rd game for Steve Kelly. On the head pin, a little full. 7-10, 3-6. Oh, and the 10 pin falls late. Some extra action. 6 pin, almost even thinking about it, but stays up. So it's a split of 7, 3, 6, and 7. Steve Kelly averaging 6.8 on the first ball up to this point, 30 boxes in. And Steve Kelly will punch 2, but the 7 is untouched, not involved. And for the 10 box, ball goes into the gutter, and that will be a 9 box for Steve Kelly, but that will result in a 134 game regardless, and a 372 triple. Those scores will be showing up on your screen in just a moment. Steve Kelly at this time is at 16 for 30 for head pins with 9 splits. And Nate Lees is 13 for 25 on the head pin with 5 splits. Steve Kelly went 7 for 10 on the head pin this game, and 4 of those 7 head pin shots were splits. That's a half Worcester for Nate Lees. Punched the 2 and the 8. Second ball is a little full, turns the half Worcester into a banana split. It's the 4-6-7-10. Nate Lees will poke the 4, and it will be a 7 box to open the second half. After 30 boxes, Steve Kelly's averaged 6.8 on the first ball, on average. Nate Lees on the head pin. There's a strike right there. Everything goes down almost immediately. He was on the 1-3 pocket, and it was a nice consolation for some of the shots he had earlier. Something about the arc of the universe and curving towards justice, all that. Nate Lees on the follow-up to the strike, and the ball tails to the left a little bit. That's 3 so far on the fill. Next ball completes it. Second ball, a little bit oddly full-ish on the pocket. Ends up being a 7 fill on the strike for 81 and 7. And it becomes a 9 box in the 8th for 90 and 8 for Mr. Nate Lees. Steve Kelly at this equivalent point in the game had 116 after 8. Nate Lees at 90 after 8. And Nate Lees on the pocket. Well, not on the pocket, on the head pin. On the center, a little bit too much to the center. Spread eagle minus the 10, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Nate Lees will take 2 off the right side and leave the 2, 4, 7 on the left. 8, 9, or 10 box. And the result of the play is an 8 in the 9th for Nate Lees. That's 98 in 9. And at this point, Steve Kelly does take the 3rd game. The highest Nate Lees can get to is 128 at this point, but he'll definitely try to make the gap less wide. That's a strike by Nate Lees. So that's currently 108 plus a ball and 10. Follow up to the strike. On the pocket. 8 go down. That's 116 so far. And the next ball finishes the string. And that's a 9 fill, and that will be a 117 third game for Nate Lees for a 3-game total of 331. Nate Lees 16 for 30 on the head pin with 6 splits. Steve Kelly also 16 for 30 on the head pin with 9 splits. Nate Lees averaging 6.3 on the first ball. Steve Kelly averaging 6.8 on the first ball. And those scores should be appearing on your screen as of right now. Just waiting for those to show up. And we should get the full screen recap here in just a second. 117 to 134, the confirmed third game. Steve Kelly currently with 6 points, up in the total by 41, 372 to Nate Lees' 331. Steve Kelly took the third game by 17 pins, 134 to Nate Lees' 117. And it's now time to move on to the fourth game here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Steve Kelly at Nate Lees, great to have you along. And let's see where these last 2 games take us here. Unfortunately, Nate Lees' record this season is ever so likely that he will not be making the playoffs, and Steve Kelly is just barely on the outside. And mathematically, I remember going into this saying I think I basically need all 14 to even have a chance of getting into the playoffs. So one of those things. So we'll see what happens. Steve Kelly currently at 6 points, all the points presently. And first ball is a split of 8. The 2 and the 10 are left on the plate with 2 pieces of wood kind of around the front of the 2, diagonal-ish. Kelly plays the wood on the 2 a little bit full and just kind of pushes it straight back. The 10 pin is unharmed. And the first frame is going to be a 10. The ball rides the rail on the right, but it will stay on for a 10 box. At the end of the third game, Steve Kelly had 1 strike and 12 spares. Nate Lees 2 strikes, 6 spares. And both bowlers with an identical head pin completion percentage of 53. Steve Kelly 9 splits, Nate Lees 6 splits by the end of the game. The difference, though, was in the total bonus pins off of mark. Steve Kelly totaling 93 by the end of the third game. Nate Lees totaling 51. Those extra pins do add up over time. And Steve Kelly on the first ball drops 5, second ball on the head pin and only the head pin. 7-10, 3-6. And Steve Kelly will take the right 3, and the 7 pin is not involved. That will be a 9 box after 2. That is 19 after 2. With 3 boxes to go. If you're new to Candlepin, we call frames boxes, but to go easy on you, I will occasionally interchange the 2 terms. And Steve Kelly will drop 7. That's a 5, 8, 9. Center triangle, the 5 triangle. There are obviously multiple triangles in the triangular array of 10 pins that you can get. You can have one in the center, one on the left, one on the right, one in the back left corner, one in the back center, and one in the back right corner. And Steve Kelly will take that triangle out. That will be 29 and a bonus after 3. Steve Kelly currently 2 for 3 on the head pin this game with 1 split. And here is now the follow-up, 2 and spare. And the ball is a little bit off to the left, but pins will kick over the right just enough to salvage it a bit. That will be a 6 fill. It's a 2x2 grid, 1, 5, 3, 9. That's 35 after 3 for Steve Kelly with that 6 fill. And missing the object pin is all that's left after the second ball. And that will be a 9-box for Steve Kelly. He's been averaging 6.5 on the first ball of this game so far. That's 44 after 4. 1 frame to go. Before we say hello to Mr. Nate Lees once again. And it's a headpin shot, but it's a little bit full. Spread eagle minus the 2. 4, 6, 3, 7, 10. With no wood. To take this, you have to go for the 3-6 pocket. Or if you're feeling risky, you can try the left side of the 3. As Steve Kelly misses the object pin, that'll be the 3, 4, 7. He'll be for a 10-box in the 5th. With a 7-box guarantee. And Steve Kelly will... I attempted to take the left 2 pins, but apparently only booked the 4, and that will be an 8-box, and that will be a 52 after 5. Just quickly cutting ahead here just to save some time, but me and Nate Lees were just talking. We were joking about how every game's been kind of up, down, and so far that's been reigning true so far. So Nate Lees will open up with a 7 drop. That's the 7, 10, and the 6. Piece of wood is settling. It was near the 6. It's now rolling towards the center. Now rolling back. Looks like it's going to remain around the center of the plate. Let's see what Nate Lees can do with it. And he'll play that wood, and that's a spare. A nice cleanup by Nate Lees. A nice clean bank shot for a spare in the first. 10 after 1. Redlining that wood on an angle was the perfect idea. Nate Lees now on a spare fill, and he'll fill with 5. We call that a left side Caleri, named after Bob Caleri of WNDS, Candlepin Stars and Strikes. It's 15 after 1 for Nate Lees, and on the spare shot, he's a little bit full in the head pin. We'll take the 1 and the 9, the 2, 4, 7 are left. And that will end up being a 9-box for Nate Lees in the second. That's 24 after 2. Nate Lees on the Manhattan side of the pocket, and there's a strike. Just what he needed, 34 and a bonus after 3. Nate Lees trying to get things started here. That's his second mark of the half. He fires. He's on the Brooklyn side this time, and he'll drop 9. So far in the strike, he's got 9 on the fill. So that's 43 plus potentially more bonus pins. He's on a single on a 3-pin. Goodbye, there's a spare. And that's going to be 54 and a bonus after 4 for Nate Lees. 3 for 4 on the head pin. 4 boxes in, he's averaging 7.75 on the first ball. Nate Lees on the head pin again, and he'll drop 7 to fill that spare in the 4th. And that will be 61 after 4. And it's another spare opportunity. It's a back right triangle, the 6, 9, 10. And he spares that triangle right up. That's 71 after 5, and that was one heck of a quick half for Nate Lees. Here it is, 71 and a bonus after 5 for Mr. Lees. He went 4 for 5 on the head pin, and on the first ball, he averaged 7.6. 4 out of 5 marks. So that is a high-powered half by Nate Lees, similar to Steve Kelly's first half of the first and the third games. Things flipping over just a little bit here. Now Steve Kelly looks to respond to finish off the 4th game on lane 2. And to catch you up, Steve Kelly on the first ball has been averaging 6.2, at least in the first half of this 4th game. And Steve Kelly on the 4-pin, and only the 4-pin. Ball is a little bit off. Crossed over quite a bit too much. Feast or famine on those crossover balls. And that time it was kind of famine. The ball didn't cross over enough. It was off to the right. Now he's left with the 1, 2, 7, 8, 6, 10. It'll be an open frame in the first box of this second half. And that ends up being an ugly 6 box for Steve Kelly. That's 58 after 6. Seems Steve Kelly has been every other ball on the head pin so far. First, third, and fifth frames were head pin shots. First and fifth frames were splits. And Steve Kelly on the head pin. Once again, that's the 8 and the 10. Definitely a strike-looking ball. Piece of wood diagonal to the 8. It's probably going to be the shot to make. Steve Kelly's a little bit on the cap of the wood, so it ended up being a bit of a more pushback full kind of shot. Not enough to kick over to the 10 in any capacity. And that will be a 9 for Steve Kelly. That's 67 in 7. Still averaging a head pin shot every other box. 1, 3, 5, and 7. And 1, 5, and 7 for the frames were splits. This will start the 8th frame. And first ball, just ever so slightly to the left of the head pin. That's a 6 drop. That's the 1, 3, 6, 10. We call it the right side 4 horsemen. Follow that up, and he will. That will be a spare for Steve Kelly. It's 77 and a bonus after 8. Definitely going to need a few more marks, because at this point, Steve Kelly is just barely catching up to Nate Lees' first half. Which is always interesting when you realize how late in the game you are compared to someone who is just at the half. Kelly on the head pin. It was a good shot, but he'll fill with 5. That's the 7, 10, 4, 6, 3. And that will put him at 82 and 8. And he'll punch the 6, and only the 6. 3, 4, 7, 10. It's a risky shot because you have to go for the 3-6 pocket, and if you miss, then it's a little ugly. And it's a pretty good 9 box. Almost a 10, and the 7 will not go, but that will be a 9 in the 9th for 91. Steve Kelly is 5 for 9 on the head pin this game so far. It's Keith Beaupre in the audience with Nate Lees. And Steve Kelly on the head pin. Pin splash, and it's a 7-10 split. 4 pieces of wood on the deck in play. Might go, might not. It's one of those shots where it's kind of a big question mark as to whether or not you can get all the pins to cooperate. And Steve Kelly, wow, nothing really falls except for the 7-pin late. It was the right kind of shot, but just the wood just mixed awkwardly. 10-pin ended up staying as the sole survivor of that shot. And it's going to be a 9 box for Steve Kelly and a 100 game 4. So that will be a 4-game total of 472. And here's those scores now. So Steve Kelly with a 138, a 100, a 134, and a 100. That equals 472. And Nate Lee is currently at a 71.5. And it looks like it might be a bit of a slam dunk in the 4th game for Nate Lees at this point. And he'll fill that spare with 3, and that will be a 74.5. He was off to the left of the head pin. Here's Nate Lees' second ball goes where the first ball went. Still 3 down, 7 up. Steve Kelly, 1 strike, 14 spares, 55% on the head pin, 40 boxes in. And that will be a 7-box opener for Nate Lees in the 6th for 81. Compare that to Steve Kelly's 58 at the same point in the game. Nate Lees in the first half averaged 7.6 on the first ball, with 4 marks out of 5. And he'll drop 6 on the head pin on the pocket. It's 4.627. Nate Lees' second split of the match, or of the game, that is. And he'll play the object pocket, and he'll leave the 6. Be a 9 or 10 box. Ends up being a 10, pins it out. That's 91 and 7 for Nate Lees, with 3 boxes to go. Nate Lees has 3 boxes to find 9 pins to tie, or anything higher to take 2 points. And there's 7 pins. I was about to say maybe 8, but that's 7 pin. There it goes, 8 pins, 9 pins. Now it's a tie. 100 even for Nate Lees with that 9 drop. Took a while for those pins to fall, but fall they did. All that's left is the 10 for a spare. Nate Lees on a single. Oh, and he threw the ball and you heard it. He said, oh no. So leave a spare on the table. So he's at 100 even right now. And he'll miss it again. So that is 100 after 8 for Nate Lees. That ties Steve Kelly's 100 game, and he still has 3 boxes to go. So barring no incredible disasters, Nate Lees will take the 4th game. And there's the 4th game for Nate Lees. That's a 2-point ball right there. That's an 8 drop. Missed the head pin, but mixed everything down except for the 1 and the 9. And he's right on the 1 and the 9 for a spare. That's 110, plus a ball in the 9th for Nate Lees. And Lees the follow-up. Off to the right of the head pin. He'll fill with 5. That's 115 and 9. Nate Lees currently 6 for 9 on the head pin. And he'll miss the object pin, the head pin, slightly to the right, into the void where the first ball went. And he'll take a few pins out except for the object pin, which he missed, and that will be a 9 box for Nate Lees. And that will be it. That's after 4 games. Nate Lees with a 455 4-game total with a 124 4th game. It's a difference of 17 in Steve Kelly's favor still, but Nate Lees finally cracked some points. With his 124 to Steve Kelly's 100, he took the 4th game by 24. He has 2 points guaranteed. Nate Lees has 3 strikes and 10 spares. Steve Kelly has 1 strike and 14 spares. Both bowlers 22 for 40 on the head pin. That's a 55% completion percentage for both. Steve Kelly has 14 splits to Nate Lees' 8. And Steve Kelly at 104 in the mark fills. Nate Lees 81. Steve Kelly averaging 6.9 per mark, and Nate Lees averaging 6.2 per mark. And just cutting ahead here just to save some time. Didn't miss anything. It was just, we were just talking in the background. So here we go. Start of the 5th game. Steve Kelly first. To the left of the head pin. We'll drop 4. 1, 3, 6, 4, 7, and the 9. Kelly will connect with a head pin to the left, but it's a weirdly thin mix. 3, 7, and 9 somehow just don't really get involved in the skirmish. Might have been a velocity issue. Anyways, there's a 9 box for Steve Kelly in the first, leaving the 7 pin. Just tuning in, welcome to the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. This is the Class A Northern Conference. This is Steve Kelly at Nate Lees, this late season match. And Steve Kelly with almost a strike. Pins wrap around the 5, but don't take it out. But it is a good spare leave. Steve Kelly versus that 5 pin, and it's a spare. He's on the board with a mark. That's 19 and a bonus after 2. Steve Kelly working on a spare. And the spare ball is on the head pin. It's a 7 fill. It's the back left triangle, the 4-7-8. 26 after 2 now. And the triangle. And we'll kick the piece of wood and kick the 4. And the 7 and the 8 are left. And for a 10 box, Steve Kelly will take a 9. That will be 35 after 3 for Kelly. And Steve goes to the left of the head pin, and that will be a 6-pack with a 4 drop. 1, 5, 3, 6, 9, 10. Just missing the head pin off to the left. Again, it was that weird struggle where this alley was kind of tailing the ball to the extreme in some cases, and it was kind of hard to correct. It's kind of this adjustment that I can't really describe compared to a lot of other bowling alleys. Steve Kelly missed the spare, and then that will become a 9 box. That ends up being 44 after 4 for Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly 2 for 4 in the head pin with no splits this half so far. And here we go to the left of the head pin. Steve Kelly's going to mix down 6. That's the 1, the 4, the 3, and the 7. Call that the left side 4 horsemen minus the 2 plus the 3. One of the 4 horsemen not on their spot. And Steve Kelly will leave the 1 and the 3. Missing the object again. And it will be an 8. That will be 52 after 5 for Steve Kelly. And here are those scores. Only 1 mark. 2 for 5 on the head pin. First ball average took a bit of a dip in this half in particular. He's averaging 6 on the first ball. But here's Nate Lees all the while will drop 6. He missed the head pin as well, 1, 3, 6, 10. Right side 4 horsemen, 1, 3 pocket should be a good spare chance. And just like that, there it goes. Nate Lees starting out with a spare, 10 and a bonus after 1. Nate Lee's working on a spare. Just a little bit thin on the head pin. Still a head pin shot, and it is a split. That will be a 5 fill. 15 after 1 is the 7, 8, 10, 3, 6. And Lee's, what a nice spare. He was on a 3 pin, and with the help of a piece of wood, everything else was mowed over. Just 25 and a bonus after 2. Lee's working on a spare once again and on the pocket. He'll drop 8. Lee's catching fire here at the end. It's the 5 and the 9. Piece of wood rolling towards the 5. And it might be tricky because it's not quite covering the 5 and the 9 all the way. Let's see what happens here. Nate Lee's. Yep, and I was worried about the placement of that wood. He'll take the 5 and only the 9. The wood deflecting the ball away and not pushing back to take the 9. But he'll make the most out of it. He'll take a 10 box, and that's 43 after 3 for Mr. Nate Lees. Currently 2 for 3 on the head pin. Only 1 split. 2 marks out of 3. Nate Lees, he'll release, and you saw the expression there. The body language said it all. So he'll take a few out there. It's a 3 drop. He'll miss the object again. That's the 1, the 8, the 6, and the 10. And that will be the 8. Taken out. That will be a 7 box for Nate Lees. That's 50 after 4. 1 box to go before we finish the first half of the 5th game. Here is Nate Lees on the 1-3 pocket. And a leave all with a 4. A nice 9 drop. Single pin spare opportunity. He's 3 for 5 in the head pin with 1 split this half. Nate Lees' first ball average has been 6.2 this half. On the single first spare, and, well, he didn't connect with the 4-pin directly, but he played the wood and deflected the ball into the 4-pin, so that's a 60 half for Nate Lees, 60 and counting. All right, so we're done the first half here on the final game here of this 5-game series. Steve Kelly 52, Nate Lees 60 plus a ball. Steve Kelly 1 strike, 15 spares. Nate Lees 3 strikes, 13 spares. Steve Kelly still in the lead in the terms of the extra pins off of fills, but Nate Lees is starting to close that gap. As you see, 94 to 111 is a much narrower gap than it was earlier. 5.9 for each fill ball for Nate Lees versus 6.9 for Steve Kelly on each fill. So that's the situation going into the second half of the 5th game here. Okay, time for the last half. I just skipped ahead for just a couple of seconds here just to avoid some dead air. Here's Steve Kelly for the last 5. And it's away. And it's on the head pin, and wow, that was an interesting hit. Pins kind of went out of their way to get out of the way of the remaining 7 pins on the deck. Bucket of 5 and the 7. Excuse me, 6 pins on the deck. And Steve Kelly will almost take all of them out, except for the object pin. That pesky, pesky object pin. Would have been a great spare otherwise, had that 3-pin not been there. And Steve Kelly will take a 9 to open up the 6th frame, or the second half, to finish the 6th frame and start the second half, 61 after 6. Before we go, of course, I'd like to thank our ACST committee members, including our Commissioner Danny Finn, our Class A Treasurer Rich Lamone, our statistician Micah Imparado, the staff at Exeter Bowling Lanes Shooters Sports Pub in Exeter, New Hampshire, for Steve Abodeely for some of the B-roll and photography you've seen. During some of the interludes, check out his work at stabbodeely.com. I would always like to thank viewers like you for watching. Hope this was a great viewing experience for you. That's a 6 drop for Steve Kelly leading the 4 horseman left side. And he's just off to the object to the right. Wanted to hit the right of the 1 pin and kick everything down, but the ball was just inches away. And Steve Kelly will make that a 9 box, leaving the head pin on the deck. It's the second 9 box in a row. At box 47, he's 70 in. 70 into this game. And the phone is ringing at the Exeter front desk. And Steve Kelly, the ball looked like it was going right for the head pin, but again just tailed off towards the last quarter of the lane. 1-7-10-3. Steve Kelly having trouble finding the head pin, only finding it on the 2nd and 3rd boxes. And he misses the spare shot there. Ball again tailing to the left. Seems to be a bit of a common theme today. And Steve Kelly will punch only the head pin, and that will be a hard-fought 7 box for 77 after 8. 2 boxes to go. Steve Kelly is just south of 550 right now on the total. He's on the head pin. The 3 and the 7 now are on the deck, and there is wood pointed in the right directions. I think this has a chance of going. Steve Kelly fires, and everything bowls over. That's a spare. That's 87 and a bonus in the 9th for Steve Kelly. In addition to this content, I invite you to check out the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook and YouTube. There's my channel, 3-Ball Spare, on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. There's Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Candlepin Corner on YouTube, at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok, Outrun the Bear on Facebook and Instagram. There's a 5 fill on Steve Kelly's Spare. It's 92 and 9. There's Outrun the Bear on Facebook and Instagram, like I said. Alley Chat on YouTube and alleychat.net. Bowling with the Gothiers on YouTube. Wolfman12395 on YouTube. The Candlepin Bowling channel on YouTube. The Ripping the Rack podcast on YouTube. The Approach podcast. There's also Tony LeVake on YouTube and Charlie Collins on TikTok. All kinds of Candlepin Bowling stuff to check out. And Steve Kelly, that will be a 10 box, and that will be the end for Steve Kelly. That's 102 after 10. That will be a 5-game total of 574. Steve Kelly 4 for 10 on the headpin with 1 split, averaging 6.5 on the first ball for the match today. And that will do for Steve Kelly. 574, just a little bit shy of a 600, less than 30, 26 to be precise. And that will be Steve Kelly's match for today. And here are the scores in case you need to see them. And it's now time for Nate Lees to return to the approaches. So folks, I did make a goof here. I forgot to switch back to cameras, so I'm afraid I wasn't able to get Nate Lees on camera for his final 5 boxes, and I feel really bad about that. I apologize for that. But here are his scores. He had a 6 on the spare, a 10, a 9, an 8, a 9, and a spare, and then a 5. So he will take the 5th game. That's 117 for Nate Lees in the 5th game to Steve Kelly's 102. That's 572 for Nate Lees to Steve Kelly's 574. A difference of 2 pins in the total. Nate Lees, though, will go home with at least 4 points. Steve Kelly is going to take 10 today, as we can see here in the final results. So very close match today. Nate Lees 572, Steve Kelly 574. Games 4 and 5 were a rally for Nate Lees, and he nearly took the total. And specifically, I remember sitting at the overhead projector and saying he just needed a little bit better of a fill, and actually his fill of 5 was just enough for Steve Kelly to hold on to the total. So that was the story there. Anyway, so that's it. Steve Kelly 10 points, Nate Lees 4. Your final score for the final time, Steve Kelly 574, Nate Lees 572. Steve Kelly 1 strike, 16 spares. Nate Lees 3 strikes, 14 spares. We talked about all this just a little while ago, but check out all these fine channels for the Candlepin universe, including the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook. There's my channel 3-Ball Spare on YouTube, and there's also Candlepin Bowling Network. There's also Candlepin Chat on Facebook if you want to find out any info about any upcoming tournaments or whatever. And you can also check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center if you want to get in the car and go bowling and want to know where to go. So here's all these other channels to check out. There's also Candlepins for Cancer.com, Candlepins number 4 Cancer.com, an awesome Candlepin community charity program. And that should just about be it for us today for Steve Kelly and Nate Lees. I've been Steve Kelly on the call after the fact. It's been great broadcasting this for you today, and we'll see you at the next Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour match. Have a great one, everyone.